The warning came without ceremony. Transmitted through deep space, on frequencies that Earth scientists had only recently learned to decode. Admiral Kim Taho sat in his command chair aboard Luna Station, watching the holographic message flicker to life in the center of the briefing room. The image showed a tall, crystalline being with skin that looked like polished diamond. Its voice translated into mechanical English by the station's computers. "People of Earth," the alien said, its tone carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Your species has violated the sacred boundaries established by the Covenant of Stars. Your unauthorized expansion across 17 star systems constitutes an act of aggression against the established order." Captain Lee Min-ho leaned forward from his position at the tactical station, his weathered face showing no emotion as he studied the alien representative. Around the room, other officers exchanged glances but remained silent. This was the moment they had all been dreading since humanity first stepped beyond their solar system. The hegemony of aligned worlds hereby demands that Terra dispatch diplomatic representatives to the neutral station of Nexus Prime within 30 standard rotations. You will negotiate the terms of your species' voluntary relocation to Sector 7, Alpha, where your kind will be permitted to exist under proper supervision. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the command center in uncomfortable silence. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Commander Park Ji-woo, head of Earth's Intelligence Division, cleared her throat. "Admiral, they're treating us like children who've wandered into the wrong neighborhood." Taeho's expression remained stone-cold as he turned to face the assembled officers. The man had seen 3 wars and countless battles, but this was different. This was about the survival of the human race itself. "They expect us to grovel and beg for mercy, just like every other species that came before us." The records were clear enough. For over 3,000 years, the hegemony had ruled this sector of space with an iron fist. 12 different alien species had joined together to create what they called the perfect galactic government. When new civilizations developed space travel and began to expand beyond their home systems, the hegemony would send these same polite warnings. The outcome was always the same. The newcomers would be forced to abandon most of their colonies and accept a small reservation, where they could exist under alien supervision. Lieutenant Colonel Yang Dae-soo, a man who had spent his entire career preparing for this day, stepped forward. "Sir, our intelligence suggests that no species has ever refused their demands. The hegemony has never had to actually fight for compliance. That's because they've never encountered humans before," Taeho replied quietly. He stood up from his chair and walked to the large viewport that looked out into space. Earth hung in the distance, a blue marble that seemed impossibly small and fragile. "They see us as just another primitive species that will roll over and accept whatever scraps they're willing to throw our way." Dr. Han So-young, the mission's chief xenobiologist, pulled up a holographic display showing what they knew about the hegemony's member species. "The Zephyrians serve as their military backbone," she explained, pointing to images of the crystalline beings. "Their bodies are naturally armored, and they're incredibly strong. The Vorthan Collective provides advanced technology and computational power. They're gaseous beings who can share thoughts instantaneously across vast distances. And the Nexari," added Captain Lee, "maintain all their infrastructure and serve as neutral mediators in disputes. They're essentially living machines, completely logical and emotionless." Taeho nodded, absorbing the information. "What about their weaknesses?" "That's the problem, sir," Dr. Han replied. "We don't know of any. Every species that's challenged them has been completely crushed. The hegemony has never lost a war, never even come close to losing one." The admiral turned back to face his officers. "Then we'll have to make sure we're not fighting a war." Commander Park raised an eyebrow. "Sir, they expect diplomacy," Taeho explained, a cold smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "They expect us to send frightened ambassadors who will accept whatever terms they offer. They expect us to behave like every other species they've encountered." Lieutenant Colonel Yang began to understand. "But we're not going to give them what they expect exactly." Taeho activated the room's main display, showing the current positions of Earth's fleet. We're going to send them diplomats, just like they asked. Ambassador Cho Sung-min will lead the delegation aboard the Harmony. It will appear to be exactly what they want. A peaceful vessel carrying humble representatives ready to negotiate humanity's surrender. And the reality? Asked Captain Lee. The reality is that we're going to give them a demonstration they'll never forget. Taeho's voice carried a quiet intensity that made everyone in the room pay attention. They think they know humans, but they've only seen us through their own expectations. They see a young species that should be grateful for their guidance. They have no idea what we're actually capable of. Within hours, Earth's response was being prepared. The diplomatic convoy would indeed travel to Nexus Prime. But it would carry something far more dangerous than frightened ambassadors. The aliens. We're about to learn that humans don't beg for mercy. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. The Harmony drifted through space, toward Nexus Prime, its hull gleaming white against the starfield. To any observer, it looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, a peaceful diplomatic vessel carrying humanity's representatives to their meeting with the hegemony. Ambassador Cho Sung-min stood at the observation deck, watching as the massive alien station grew larger in the viewport. First time seeing it, asked Dr. Han So-young, joining him at the window. The station was enormous, a perfect sphere nearly 50 kilometers across. Its surface was covered in gleaming towers and docking bays that could accommodate ships from dozens of different species. It's impressive, Sung-min admitted. Hard to believe something so beautiful is about to become a battlefield. Careful with your words, Dr. Han warned quietly. The aliens have excellent hearing, and some of them can detect even the smallest vibrations in the air. Sung-min nodded and returned to studying the station. He had spent months preparing for this mission, learning everything humanity knew about the 12 species that made up the hegemony. The Zephyrians were warriors, their crystalline bodies naturally armored and incredibly strong. The Vorthon Collective was made up of gaseous beings who could share thoughts instantly across vast distances. The Nexari were living machines, logical and emotionless, who maintained all the technology that kept the hegemony running. Lieutenant Colonel Yang Dae-soo approached them, dressed in the formal robes of a cultural attaché. To anyone watching, he appeared to be exactly what his papers claimed, a scholar interested in alien customs and traditions. The reality was very different. Yang was one of Earth's most skilled special operations officers, and he had spent years training for this exact mission. Ambassador, he said formally, our escorts have been granted permission to dock at various points around the station. The aliens seem quite eager to show us their hospitality. Sung-min smiled at the coded message. The 11 ships that had accompanied the Harmony were officially listed as support vessels for the diplomatic mission. Their crews were supposed to be cultural specialists, trade representatives, and security personnel. In reality, each ship carried a carefully selected team of elite soldiers and intelligence operatives. Excellent, Sung-min replied. I'm sure our people will find the experience very educational. The docking process began with a series of mechanical sounds that vibrated through the ship's hull. Sung-min watched through the viewport as massive clamps extended from the station to secure the Harmony in place. Red lights flashed along the docking bay walls as the atmosphere was adjusted to accommodate human breathing requirements. Captain Park Gus's voice came through the ship's communication system. All hands, prepare for dock. Remember, we are peaceful diplomats here to negotiate. Act accordingly. But the captain's words carried a hidden meaning that every crew member understood. They were here to play a role, to make the aliens believe they were dealing with a frightened, primitive species. The success of their mission depended on maintaining that illusion for as long as possible. As the airlock cycled open, Sung-min straightened his formal diplomatic robes and prepared to meet his hosts. The first alien he encountered was a Nexari, a tall mechanical being with multiple optical sensors that glowed with soft blue light. Its body was made of some kind of metal that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. Ambassador Sung-min, the Nexari said in perfect English, its voice generated by speakers built into its chest. I am Coordinator Prime, assigned to facilitate your stay on Nexus Prime. The hegemony welcomes you. The honor is mine, Sung-min replied with a respectful bow. Earth is grateful for this opportunity to meet with the hegemony's representatives. As they walked through the station's corridors, Seungmin was amazed by what he saw. The walls were covered in displays showing different alien environments, allowing species with vastly different needs to feel comfortable in the same space. The Zephyrians needed high-pressure chambers with specific light frequencies, while the Vorthon Collective required containment fields to maintain their gaseous forms. "Your station is remarkable," Seungmin said, and he meant it. The engineering required to accommodate so many different species must be incredible. "The hegemony has had 3,000 years to perfect these systems," Coordinator Prime replied. "We have learned to bring order to chaos, to create harmony from diversity. This is what we offer to humanity." Behind them, Lieutenant Colonel Yang followed silently, his trained eyes cataloging every detail. He noted the positions of security, cameras, the locations of blast doors, and the patterns of alien patrol routes. While the ambassador engaged in polite conversation, Yang was gathering the intelligence that would be crucial to their mission's success. They passed a group of Zephyrians in a corridor, their crystalline bodies catching and reflecting the ambient light. The aliens towered over the humans, their natural armor making them look like living diamonds. They watched the human delegation with what might have been curiosity, their faceted eyes tracking every movement. "They're beautiful," Dr. Han whispered, genuinely impressed by the crystalline beings. "Beautiful and deadly," Yang replied quietly. "Those aren't just pretty decorations on their bodies. That crystalline structure is harder than any armor humanity has ever developed." As they continued deeper into the station, Seungmin began to understand the true scale of what they were facing. The hegemony wasn't just powerful. It was ancient, established, and absolutely confident in its superiority. These beings had ruled this sector of space for longer than human civilization had existed, but they had never encountered humans before. And that, Seungmin thought to himself, was going to be their first mistake. The Great Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime was designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. Ambassador Cho Seungmin walked slowly across the polished floor toward the center of the massive circular chamber, his footsteps echoing in the vast space above. Around him, 12 different sections housed the various species of the hegemony, each area customized for their specific needs. The Zephyrians sat in their crystalline chambers, their diamond-like bodies refracting the chambers, lights into rainbow patterns that danced across the walls. Their section was kept at high pressure, with specific light frequencies that made their natural armor glow with inner fire. Even sitting still, they looked like living weapons. In another section, the Vorthon Collective swirled in their containment fields, their gaseous forms shifting between colors as they communicated through chemical signals. The patterns they created were hypnotic, flowing and changing like aurora in a night sky. Seungmin knew that each individual gas cloud was actually part of a larger, collective consciousness that could share thoughts instantly across vast distances. The Nexari occupied the section directly above the chamber's center. These machine-like beings had multiple optical sensors that tracked every movement in the room. Their bodies were made of some kind of living metal that seemed to flow and reshape itself as needed. They served as the hegemony's mediators and record keepers, emotionless and completely logical. High above them all, the Nexari Arbiter activated the translation matrix. The device hummed to life, its complex sensors analyzing the vocal patterns and body language of every species present. When the Arbiter spoke, its words were automatically translated into the native language of each delegate. Human representative. The Arbiter's voice resonated through the chamber, carrying the weight of 3,000 years of authority. "The hegemony has reached its final decision regarding your species' fate." Min stood perfectly still in the center of the chamber, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, the various alien representatives leaned forward in their seats, eager to witness another primitive species accept their inevitable fate. This was a ceremony they had performed countless times over the millennia, and the outcome was always the same. "You will evacuate 16 of your 17 colonies within 1 standard year," the Arbiter continued. "The remaining settlement will be subject to hegemony oversight and regulation. Your species' expansion beyond the designated zone is hereby permanently forbidden. The Zephyrians' crystalline bodies began to glow brighter, a sign of satisfaction. Among their kind, the Vorthan collective's swirling patterns accelerated, indicating their approval of the decision. Other species throughout the chamber displayed their own forms of smugness and superiority. Sungmin remained motionless for a long moment, letting the weight of their words settle over the chamber. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm and measured. "The Terran Colonial Authority has carefully considered your proposal," he said, his words carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "We respectfully decline." The silence that followed was complete and absolute. In 3,000 years of hegemony rule, no species had ever refused their demands. The very concept was so foreign to them that many of the aliens seemed unable to process what they had just heard. The Zephyrians' glow shifted from satisfaction to agitation, their crystalline bodies now pulsing with angry red light. Collective's patterns became chaotic, their gaseous forms swirling in confusion. Even the emotionless Nexari seemed taken aback, their optical sensors focusing and refocusing as if trying to confirm what they had heard. "You seem to have expected diplomacy," Sungmin continued, his tone shifting from respectful to coldly professional. "But Earth has sent something else entirely." The ambassador touched a small device hidden in his sleeve, sending a coded signal that traveled instantly through subspace to the human fleet. Around Nexus Prime, 12 ships that had been masquerading as peaceful diplomatic vessels began their transformation. The Harmony was the first to reveal its true nature. The ship's white diplomatic hull began to retract, sliding away in carefully. Engineered sections to reveal the dark metal underneath. Weapon systems that had been hidden beneath false plating emerged from concealment, their targeting arrays already locked onto critical points throughout the station. The aliens watched, in growing horror as sleek missile launchers extended from the ship's flanks. Energy weapons that had been disguised as communication arrays rotated to track the station's defensive systems. The Harmony was not a diplomatic vessel at all, but a state-of-the-art battlecruiser designed for one purpose: war. Around the station, 11 other ships simultaneously dropped their peaceful disguises. Each vessel revealed itself to be a sophisticated warship, armed with weapons the aliens had never seen before. The human fleet had not come to negotiate. They had come to make a statement. "Impossible," whispered one of the Zephyrian representatives, her crystalline voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "No species has ever deceived the hegemony. You underestimated us," Songmin replied simply. "You saw what you expected to see, a primitive species that would be grateful for your guidance. You never considered that we might have our own plans." Nexari Arbiter's optical sensors flashed rapidly as it processed the situation. "You have committed an act of war against the hegemony," it declared. "Our defenses will destroy your ships before they can inflict significant damage." Songmin smiled. "For the first time since entering the chamber, your defenses are designed to repel conventional energy weapons. Unfortunately for you, humans have never been particularly conventional." Throughout the station, alarms began to sound as the hegemony's military systems activated. Energy shields flickered to life around critical installations and automated. Defense platforms emerged from hidden positions. It was an impressive display of technology that had protected Nexus Prime for centuries. But the aliens were about to learn that impressive technology means nothing if you're fighting the wrong kind of war. The first thing that struck Captain Park Ji-woo was how beautiful the hegemony's defenses looked. From the bridge of the Harmony, she watched as energy shields shimmered to life around Nexus Prime, creating a protective barrier that glowed with soft blue light. Automated defense platforms emerged from hidden positions, their sleek forms bristling with weapons that had never failed to protect the station. "All units, this is actual," Park spoke into her headset, her voice calm and professional. "Remember, we're not here to destroy. We're here to educate. Execute. Operation Teacher." The alien defenses were impressive by any standard. Energy shields that could deflect plasma cannons and particle beams, weapon systems that could track and destroy incoming missiles, and armor plating that had withstood attacks from dozens of different species over the centuries. The technology was advanced, refined, and had never been defeated. The problem was that it had been designed to fight alien weapons, not human ones. Lieutenant Colonel Yang De-Su, now revealed as the fleet's tactical coordinator, studied the enemy. Defenses from his position at the weapons control station. Their shields are calibrated for energy-based attacks, he reported. They're not designed to handle kinetic weapons. Understood, Park replied. Begin the demonstration. Human fleet's first weapons to fire were unlike anything the hegemony had ever encountered. Instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, the human ships launched solid projectiles made of tungsten and other dense metals. These rods were accelerated by magnetic launchers to incredible speeds, traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The alien shields, designed to absorb and deflect energy attacks, offered no protection against solid matter moving at relativistic velocities. The tungsten rods punched through the defensive barriers as if they weren't there, striking the shield generators with surgical precision. One by one, the beautiful blue barriers around Nexus Prime flickered and died. The aliens' primary defense system, which had protected them for 3,000 years, was neutralized in less than 10 minutes. In the Great Assembly Hall, the hegemony representatives watched in growing horror as their defenses crumbled. The Zephyrians, who served as the military backbone of the Alliance, were the first to react. Their crystalline bodies began to glow with combat readiness as they prepared to launch their fighter squadrons. "Deploy the Crystal Wing," commanded the Zephyrian war leader, her voice carrying the authority of 1,000 victories. "These primitives will learn why we have ruled this sector for millennia." The Zephyrian fighters were things of beauty and terror. Each ship was grown rather than built, created from the same crystalline material as their pilots' bodies. They were incredibly fast, nearly indestructible, and armed with weapons that could slice through most known materials like butter. But the humans had been watching the Zephyrians for days. Studying their movements and analyzing their strengths, Dr. Han So-young, working from the intelligence gathered during their diplomatic visit, had identified a critical weakness in the crystalline being's natural armor. "Target the fighters with sonic disruptors," Park ordered. Full spectrum, maximum intensity. The human ships opened fire with weapons that would have seemed primitive to most galactic civilizations. Sonic disruptors were essentially very powerful. Speakers designed to generate sound waves at specific frequencies. Most alien species would have dismissed them as crude and ineffective. The Zephyrians learned otherwise. The high-frequency sound waves struck their crystalline fighters and began to resonate through the crystal structure. Within seconds, the beautiful ships began to vibrate, then crack, then shatter completely. The same crystalline armor that made them so strong also made them vulnerable to sonic attack. The surviving Zephyrian pilots retreated in terror, their formations broken and their confidence shattered along with their ships. For the first time in their history, the warrior race had been defeated by what they considered primitive technology. The Vorthon Collective tried to coordinate a counterattack through their distributed intelligence network. Their gaseous forms allowed them to share thoughts instantly across vast distances, making them excellent tactical coordinators. They began to organize the remaining alien forces for a coordinated assault on the human fleet. They had not counted on Lieutenant Colonel Yang's infiltration teams. During the days of cultural exchange, human operatives had positioned electromagnetic pulse generators throughout the station. These devices had been disguised as gifts and cultural artifacts, small enough to avoid detection, but powerful enough to disrupt the Vorthon Collective's communication network. When Yang activated the devices, the electromagnetic pulses scattered the gaseous beings' carefully maintained forms. Unable to maintain cohesion, the Vorthon Collective lost their ability to coordinate attacks. Their distributed intelligence network collapsed, leaving them confused and disorganized. The Nexari, the logical and emotionless machine beings, who maintained the hegemony's technology, attempted to adapt to the human weapons. Their advanced computational systems began analyzing the attack patterns, trying to develop countermeasures for the kinetic weapons and sonic disruptors. But the humans had prepared for this as well. Dr. Han's team had developed adaptive viruses specifically designed to target Nexari systems. These computer programs spread through the station's network, turning the aliens' own technology against them. Defense systems shut down, life support fluctuated, and even the translation matrix began to malfunction. Within 2 hours, the mighty hegemony fleet lay in ruins around Nexus Prime. Ships that had ruled the stars for centuries floated dead in space. Their crews either fled or surrendered. The station itself remained intact. But every major defensive system had been systematically disabled. The aliens who had expected to crush another primitive species found themselves completely helpless at the mercy of the humans they had so dramatically underestimated. The demonstration was over. The education had begun. The great assembly hall looked very different now. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across the chamber, and the acrid smell of burned electronics filled the air. Ambassador Cho Seung-min stood once again in the center of the circular room. But this time, the alien representatives sat in stunned silence, their various communication systems still disrupted by the human assault. The Zephyrians, once proud warriors with crystalline bodies that gleamed like diamonds, now appeared dim and cracked. Their natural armor had been damaged by the sonic attacks, and many of them kept their heads down in shame. They had never been defeated before, and the experience had shaken them to their core. The Vorthon collective struggled to maintain their gaseous forms in the containment fields. The electromagnetic pulses had scattered their consciousness, and they were still trying to piece their thoughts back together. Their once beautiful aurora patterns were now chaotic and fragmented like a broken rainbow. Even the emotionless Nixari seemed affected by what had happened. Their optical sensors flickered weakly as backup systems struggled to maintain basic functions. The viruses that had infected their networks were still causing problems throughout the station, making even simple tasks difficult. The Terran Colonial Authority is prepared to discuss new terms, Seung-min announced, his voice the only clear sound in the vast chamber. Terms that reflect the current balance of power. The Nexari Arbiter's optical sensors focused on the human ambassador with obvious difficulty. Its voice, when it finally came through the damaged speakers, sounded weak and uncertain. What are your demands? For 3,000 years, the hegemony had been the one making demands. They had decided the fate of countless species, forcing them to accept whatever terms were offered. Now, for the first time in their long history, they were on the receiving end of an ultimatum. Earth seeks neither conquest nor subjugation, Seung-min replied, his tone measured and professional. We are not monsters, have no desire to rule over other species or to cause unnecessary suffering. Dr. Han Sol-young stepped forward, carrying a datapad containing Earth's formal proposal. She had spent months working with Earth's best political scientists and diplomats to create a framework that would be fair to all species involved. We propose the establishment of a galactic council, she explained, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. A governing body where all spacefaring species hold equal representation. Territorial disputes will be resolved through negotiation between equals, not through the dictates of a self-appointed ruling class. The proposal was radical by galactic standards. For millennia, the stronger species had ruled over the weaker ones. The idea that all civilizations should have an equal voice in galactic affairs was completely foreign to most of the aliens present. A Zephyrian representative, crystalline form now cracked and dim, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. And if we refuse? Captain Park Ji-woo's image appeared on the chamber's main display, transmitted from the Harmony's bridge. Behind her, tactical screens showed the positions of Earth's fleet, their weapons still trained on the station's vital systems, the human ships had not moved from their positions, a constant reminder of the new balance of power. The demonstration you've just witnessed represents approximately 3% of Earth's current military capability, Park said matter-of-factly. We have shown you what we can do with a dozen ships. Our full fleet contains over 300 vessels, each more advanced than anything you've seen today. The silence that followed was deafening. The aliens had assumed that the human fleet represented Earth's entire military force. Learning that it was merely a small demonstration unit was a shock that left many of them speechless. We would prefer cooperation, Park continued, her tone remaining calm and professional. but we are prepared for the alternative. Lieutenant Colonel Young Dae-soo, still dressed in his cultural-attached robes, activated a holographic display showing Earth's military production capabilities. Our shipyards can produce 50 new warships per month, he explained. Our weapons technology continues to advance at a rate that your species would find difficult to match. The choice was stark and simple. Assembled aliens could accept Earth's proposal for a new galactic order, or they could face the full might of humanity's military machine. Given what they had just witnessed, there was really no choice at all. One by one, the representatives of the 12 species agreed to Earth's terms. Some did so reluctantly, others with obvious fear, but all of them recognized that the old order was dead. The hegemony's 3,000-year reign was over. Excellent, Sungmin said, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. The Galactic Council will convene within 6 months to establish formal procedures and territorial boundaries. Earth will provide the initial framework, but all species will have input into the final structure. As the human fleet prepared to, Depart Nexus Prime Ambassador Sungmin delivered humanity's final message to the galaxy. The words were broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every spacefaring civilization would hear them. Expected us to beg for scraps from your table, he said, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of absolute victory. Instead, you'll find we prefer to build our own. The message spread throughout the galaxy within days, transmitted from star system to star system by traders and travelers. Other species, long subjugated by the hegemony's rule, began to question the old order. Some sent discreet messages to Earth, inquiring about this new galactic council. Others simply wondered what other primitive civilizations might surprise them. Humanity had announced its presence on the galactic stage, not with words, but with an undeniable demonstration of strength. They had come expecting diplomacy, but Earth had sent something far more effective, the promise of a new tomorrow.